Hey, daring adventurers! Prepare for an epic journey into the bonus content for Gretchen's Misadventures Episode 10, The Head of the Horseman. In today's video, we're uncovering the last words from the headless horseman before his fateful demise, witnessing Nora's bold resignation from her position with the Baron, and presenting a character illustration that captures the essence of this thrilling misadventure. Get ready for a roller coaster of emotions. Last words. Sir Jack was thrust to his knees in the stark cobbled courtyard, though there was no living assailant at his back. Chairwoman Zita Goldworthy loomed over him, but his gaze froze on the far wall where his stallion Hengreon stood tethered. "Oh, your precious nag, is it?" Zita clucked. "Perhaps you will be moved to make amends for your crimes on account of its flea-bitten hide." Crimes, Sir Jack thought. Trumped-up charges, more like. "You overstep, madam," Sir Jack snarled. "The king's men will be here any moment to demand my release. Do you think he will stand for hags deciding the fate of nobility?" The old woman cackled and leaned toward him with a sneer. "Do you think the king will stand for his noblest of knights being a known rapist?" Sir Jack's blood boiled, and though his hands were bound behind his back, he clenched his fists. "Filthy lies. You sent that temptress after me. I wasn't even capable after drinking away the night in the king's hall. And yet she was seen leaving your chamber in tears." Zita flashed a nasty grin. "I wonder which of you will be believed." Sir Jack ground his teeth as he recalled waking from his stupor to an empty bed. He'd wondered then if he'd been stuped in some way. "I'll die before marrying your niece, not after this treachery." Zita only shrugged and turned toward Hengreon. "As you wish." The lurching monstrosity which was Sir Jack's captor, a vacant suit of armour, drew his sword and clattered towards Sir Jack's mount. Sir Jack's heart pounded as he watched the armoured creature approach his loyal steed. Hengreon, sensing the impending danger, whinnied in distress, tugging against the reins that held him captive. Chairwoman Zita Goldworthy smirked, revelling in Sir Jack's helplessness. "Your steed, much like you, will find no mercy here. It seems your noble blood can't protect you from the consequences of your sins." As the clattering suit of armour raised its sword, Sir Jack's mind raced. The chairwoman had orchestrated this entire charade, painting him as a villain in the eyes of the king and the court. Even the sight of his faithful stallion being threatened seemed part of her sinister plan. Despite the dire situation, a surge of defiance coursed through Sir Jack. "You'll pay for this, Zita. The truth will prevail, and you'll answer for your lies." Zita merely laughed, a cold and hollow sound that echoed through the courtyard. "The truth is what I make it, Sir Jack, and in the eyes of those who matter, you are already condemned." The suit of armour swung its sword, but Hengreon lashed out with a hoof, causing the swing to sever the reins that bound him. The majestic stallion, now free but alarmed, galloped away from the looming threat. Sir Jack felt a twinge of relief at Hengreon's escape, but he knew that his own fate hung in the balance. "Catch that horse!" Chairwoman Zita screeched, before turning her attention back to Sir Jack, her eyes glinting with malice. "You will die, Sir Jack, and your death will be lingering. But fear not, your demise will be discreet. The world will never know of the once noble knight's inglorious end." Sir Jack's defiance wavered for a moment, replaced by a cold realization. Nobody was coming. This was it. As the armoured creature prepared to strike, Sir Jack's gaze hardened with a resolve that Zita failed to perceive. Even in the face of impending doom, he vowed to face his fate with dignity, a silent testament to the honour that had once defined him. The courtyard fell into an eerie silence, broken only by the echoing clinks of the armoured suit's movements. And with a swift, unseen stroke, Sir Jack faced his end with stoic determination, knowing that the truth, though buried, would someday surface to vindicate him. A resignation to remember. Nora bit back a curse as Steward left her workroom with a disdainful sniff. She didn't need to be told the Baron was in a foul temper, or what reason he had for summoning her at such a late hour. He was still stewing on the imagined, or perhaps unimagined, slight from the Lady Bishop, and it was up to Nora to talk him off the wall. Not deigning to dress properly for the occasion, Nora only wrapped a shawl around her nightdress and pulled her pointed hat on her head to show people she meant business. While she was notoriously known as the Baron's resident witch and master of hexes, she felt her proper business was that of an advisor. That, or a nursemaid to an overgrown toddler with a proclivity to tantrums. The most direct route to the Baron's apartments was through the dank dungeons, and Nora shivered as she left the warm embrace of her hearth. Muttering about foolish grudges and imbeciles who wouldn't let go, the servants of the estate gave her a wide berth as she stomped down the hallways and up the stairs. The Baron was pacing in front of his own roaring fireplace when she slipped into his rooms, the double doors to his boudoir shut. It didn't mean much. She knew the Baroness kept her own apartments as far from the man as the estate allowed, and he wasn't inclined to parade floozies around. "You wished to see me?" Nora kept her tone dry and clasped her hands in front of her. The Baron halted and clenched his fists. That woman must answer for her disrespect. The Baron's face was a nasty shade of mottled red, which creeped up over his shiny bald pate. "Woman?" Nora cocked her head as if this was the first she'd heard of it. It was taking a chance on riling the man up even further, but sometimes he had to be handled with an air of disinterest. "Don't play coy with me, Nora." He held up a warning finger. "You may think you can worm out of doing my bidding, but I can take you off the accounts ledger whenever I wish." Beyond petulance, then, Nora mused. This kind of foot-stamping display was worse than the usual sort. "I only caution you to think through the eventualities," Nora sighed. "Blast around hexes willy-nilly and one will surely come to bite you on the backside. Think smaller. A nasty itch, perhaps, or something that will make food turn to ash in her mouth for a few weeks. Court politics are fraught. You wouldn't wish for anything so permanent if there is a chance." "Lady Bishop is my inferior in every sense of the word," the Baron roared. "I don't mean to chastise her. I would have her chased out of high society for good. If she's pressed to wear a wig, the very accessory she seems to find so amusing, she wouldn't dare show her face in fine company." Except Nora wagered that Lady Bishop wouldn't wear anything as gaudy as the bejewelled and inordinately tall abomination that the Baron strutted around in. In all honesty, Nora was a little in awe of the woman, who, as a stranger to the court from a distant land, showed equal measures of grace, humility, and charm. She was a rising star among the blue bloods, and had shown Nora kindness when other nobles sneered in her direction. No, she wasn't going to make the poor woman bald on account of a pint-sized nitwit who couldn't see how absurd he looked traipsing around in heeled boots and a top hat of curls. When I signed on, I agreed only to bothersome hexes. Nora kept her voice low with an undercurrent of steel. "Every time I send bad energy out into the world, I risk disrupting the order of things. I must refuse you in this. Think of something else." The Baron's eyes boggled and his face went from red to purple. He strode over to shove a finger in her face, and though he tried to look menacing, Nora stood a full head taller than him. "Everyone tells me you're more trouble than you're worth, Nora Brightstar," he spat. "Lying around either drinking your fill or sleeping off a headache most days in my employ. And when I finally have need of your services, you dare deny me." Something in Nora snapped. People muttered all the time about how good she had it at the Baron's estate, but not one of them could fathom how much the puny little man grated on her soul. It was high time he learned the consequences of his actions, leave him prone without protection after years of settling petty squabbles with hex magic. She would like to see how long it would take for him to be plucked from good favour in the court and ridiculed openly. "Have you considered that Lady Bishop's words only held up a mirror with a likeness you find unfavourable?" Nora bared her teeth. That sooner or later the court would mock such a tiny man with an overinflated sense of himself? That by covering up your flaws you are only waving a banner to invite people to stare? Without my protection you watch them laugh openly. The man stood dumb with his jaw hanging until rage flared in his eyes. "That's it," he roared. "You are done for, Nora. I will not be insulted by the likes of you in my own home. Not when I have gone to great expense to keep you in comfort all these years. I hereby cast you out. Go beg for your scraps elsewhere." "With pleasure," Nora snarled. "I shall take great pleasure in seeing your demise, you pathetic imbecile. When you're ready to grovel, you better make sure it's on your knees." He only drew ragged breaths and pointed at the door. Nora took the moment to collect herself and stand at her full height. I shall be gone on the morrow. My workroom is my own. Enter at your own peril. I will have my things collected in due course." Not waiting for a reply, Nora turned on her heel to march out of the apartments. After slamming the door behind her, she swallowed down the excitement in her stomach. She'd wanted to say those things for years, and more. It was high time she moved on from the likes of him and to more notable pursuits. And if he crossed her? Nora curled her lip, frightening a maid she stalked past. He'd pay dearly. And finally, we have this depiction of Gretchen out in the woods, despairing for her lost witch's hat by Rod Saveley. We hope you relished the powerful last words, Nora's bold decision, and the illustration from episode 10, The Head of the Horseman. If you're hungry for more mischievous delights and exclusive behind-the-scenes treasures, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Until next time, may your days be filled with magic, mischief, and a touch of fantastical adventure.